Hey everybody, welcome back to Gideon Stuff. Today we're taking a look at the Kizer Original, and we're trying the magazine background again. You guys can probably tell which videos I film somewhat close together because of the different styles I experiment with. So we're still experimenting with the magazines. This video itself is probably not going to come out until January or February, but I'm filming this in December. It's really not important for you guys to know, but anywho, let's get this review started. So our blade length, if we're measuring just a sharpened edge, coming in here well under 3 inches, close to that 3 or close to that 2.75 inch mark. If we measure all the way back to scales, we are right at 3 inches. Right at 3 inches. When I unboxed this, I originally measured it a little bit longer than 3 inches for some reason. It is right at 3 inches, so if you have that 3-inch legal limit that you need to abide by, this knife, I'm not sure if it has to be under 3 inches or if it's 3 inches and under, legal jargon. I'm a YouTuber, not a lawyer. And even outside of YouTube, I'm a geologist, not a lawyer, so don't ask me legal questions. But yeah, there we go, 3 inches. So not a big knife at all. Let's go ahead and start our size comparisons. Here comes the rats. There we go. So yeah, even a little bit shorter than the Rat 2. Definitely a knife on the smaller side. Okay, let's go ahead and grab our Civivis. There's our Elementum 2. And there's our Civivi Praxis. Again, it's the smallest knife on the table. Next up, let's go ahead and grab our USA-made comparisons. There's the Spyderco PM2, and here's the Benchmade Bugout. Which, I've heard these two knives compared a lot. I've heard a lot of people bring up, comparisons between the original and the Bugout, and I don't really see it. I guess they're both drop points with a ambi-friendly lock, but that's about it. And to finish up comparisons here, let's go ahead and compare against the Kizer Towser K. I just so happen to have another Serape series version. And, whoops, I meant to get my bag lighter out, but it's still in my drawer, so let me grab that. Alrighty, here we go. Sorry about that. I keep my bag lighter in my desk drawer, and right now the tripod is up against it. But there is the bag lighter. I haven't carried this knife in a while. I need to. The bag lighter is actually pretty cool. But there we go. As I'm sure all of you know, bag lighter is a classic. It's an absolute classic. Alrighty. So what are we looking at here for our materials? We have a 154 cm blade, and I believe that is the blade steel used on most of the originals. I think you've also got a couple of special ones in LMAX, and I think that's all I can think of right now. There's probably more. Kizer does hundreds of versions of all their knives, it seems. We have a button lock. We have a steel pocket clip. And in this case, we have these Serape G10 scales, which are cool, but you can also get this with aluminum and micarta and I think Richlite. So there we go. All right, let's go ahead and go to the cutting footage. Well, guys, here we are doing another review cutting at White Sands. We're doing it with the Kizer Original. I already talked a lot about what makes this area so amazing in another video, so definitely watch my TRM Neutron 2 review if you want all that information. But this is so beautiful, and especially coming out here in December, it's really nice. Look, it's snowy. Yay, Christmas. It's really nice, and the sand is so cool. So cool on my feet. So awesome. Alrighty. Kizer Original. Let's go ahead and get into this. Let's talk about the action first. Button lock. Thumb studs. It does make a nice little ting. So that's fun. But it is kind of a squishy button lock. It doesn't really have that snappy detent like a pyrite does. The action is pretty dangly. It's fine. It's completely fine. Gonna be saying that a lot. All right, so I'm editing my review of the original, and here's what I mean by squishy detent or the action not being that great is it feels a little bit lazy. So that instead of like a snap out, it just kind of like you push with your finger and just kind of like bleh, comes out. With the pyrite, that snaps. The other thing too, here's a good demonstration of the difference in detent. They're not the same. Ergonomics. You've got kind of two grips. You got this grip here, and I can barely get all 4 fingers on right here. And this is an okay grip. I do feel a clip digging into me a little bit. But then you can kind of choke up in here. This grip fixes the clip problem, but this little angle here, I don't know. It feels unnatural on my finger. It digs in a little bit. I just don't like those corners. This isn't really a knife I'm going to be pushing through anything hard, so I guess it's not a huge deal, but not a big fan of the ergonomics. They're meh. They're very meh. All right, let's talk about the carry. Non-reversible clip, which sucks, but it is an inset clip with flat screws. And I do like Kizer's clip. I think they've got a very, very good clip. Let's go ahead and scroll down here, see it in and out of the pocket. Ta-da! Yep, it works good. The knife is small and lightweight. It's not going to give you any trouble. So, nothing to really be concerned about. Kind of, I decided to do the review kind of for this knife today because I thought it was kind of interesting to have the contrast between like the rainbow serape scales and the stark white monochrome background. I don't know, what do you guys think? Funny? Maybe not. All right, let's go ahead and do some cutting. Let me grab my cutting materials. You guys have heard me say this a lot, and I'm going to keep saying it. I miss my truck. But that's neither here nor there. You know what? We'll just grab this little piece of cardboard. I think this should be all I need. 154 cm, drop point blade, plenty slicey, flat grind. Let's go ahead and tilt all the way down here. Let's do a utility cut. Perfectly fine. Ooh, gotcha. Ta-da! 1, 2, 3. Did really, really well at that. I'm impressed. That was actually really nice. Good job, Kizer Original. Awesome. Pool noodle time. Yeah, we got enough. Oops, caught the thumb studs. Okay, so that actually felt really, really nice going through the pool noodle. Very consistent. Very, yeah, very good. No real problems, no hang-ups. That edge is ground, or that edge is sharpened nicely. The edge is ground. The blade is ground. Oh my goodness. Pretty well. So overall, not bad. And once again, I'm going to bemoan. I missed the cutting board that I can throw knives into. Oh well, there we go. We got that done nice and quick. Let's get back to the table. All right, let's go ahead and start talking about what I'm liking and not liking. And I got to be careful today because I might make this video sound a lot more negative than I intend. Because there is a lot I like about this knife. There's a lot about this knife that is good, but well, we'll save all that for the negatives. So number one, this is a very functional EDC shape. I do find it ironic it's called the Original, and this is a very unoriginal looking knife. More on that later. But yeah, this is going to be a great blade shape. This is going to be a great shape for EDC. You know, drop point blades like this, they're versatile. You can use them for anything. I recommend most people get drop points for like their first EDC knife and things like that. And then once you become a knife snob, you can start carrying knives that are specifically designed for every little task you might encounter. But yeah, good EDC shape. Next thing I like is I think Kizer has a really good pocket clip. I'm a big fan of Kizer's clip. They set this into the scales with flat screws, goes in and out of the pocket like a breeze. But also the short, kind of wide clip, it helps a lot of Kizer clips to kind of disappear in the hand. And I think it's a good looking clip too. So Yeah, I think Kizer has one of the better clips in the game. Next thing, there are tons and tons of versions of this knife, as I mentioned earlier. So if you're really, really into the original, you can find one that suits your particular tastes, which is pretty cool. Next thing, the action is good. It's a button lock. You can see here it's very dangly. I would not say this is my favorite button lock action. Again, more on that later. But it is very good. It's perfectly fine. And it makes some nice little tings. Let's see if we can... I'll shut up for a minute and we'll see if we can hear these. Okay, sometimes it makes the tings. Right now it's making more of the snaps, which is a good sound too. But sometimes it'll make like these nice little tings. Oh well. Yeah, so the action is completely fine. Thumb studs, I prefer the thumb stud button lock combo. To me, that's kind of the best type of action to have with a button lock. So yeah, I like that a whole lot. Access to the thumb studs is really great. No problems there whatsoever. Going back to this blade, 154 cm is a good steel. We have a pretty much full flat grind for all intents and purposes. This is not a tall blade, but it's going to slice decently well. We've got a decently pokey tip. Comes down to a reasonably thin edge. This isn't going to be like a laser beam, but for the type of knife that this is, I think it's going to be absolutely fine. So I think the blade is overall really, really well done. Centering and everything out of the box is really, really nice. I think this might be a little bit off center now. If so, just the slightest little bit. And then the size. I think that's going to be a size that, again, with that legal limit, I'm not a lawyer, but that 3-inch blade shape, that's going to be good for legal areas, perhaps. And also, I think this is a good shape for, maybe, or a good size for, office carry, things like that, where you maybe don't want to be all that spooky. And next thing, the scales here are really nice. I do love the Serape scales. Obviously, I've got a Serape knife here. That's in my collection. This is not. This knife is not going to be staying in my collection. But the Serape scales are really, really cool. They charge you a bunch for them, but they're cool scales. So there we go. Next thing, the ergonomics on this knife are fine. It works. You can hold this knife and you can, do all the tasks that you need to do. All right, let's go ahead and start getting into my negatives. And this is going to be a little bit of a longer part of the video, and a little bit of a more subjective part of the video, because there's a lot of things about this knife that bother me personally, but they might not be huge nitpicks. Number one thing I'm going to mention that is an actual nitpick is this clip is not reversible, and I don't think they have a reversible clip on any of the original models. That's a huge missed opportunity. This is such a lefty-friendly knife. The fact that they're leaving the lefties out is a little bit rude. So shame on you, Kizer. But yeah, it is what it is, I guess. Something I guess I should have mentioned is that there is a larger size of this if you're interested in that. So you can get that larger size. Next thing about, these are going to get down to more my nitpicky thing. Well, actually, let's talk about something that's a little less nitpicky. These are a little bit pricey. Let me pull up my computer real quick. All right, so yeah, this particular version here with the Serape scales, these go for about $90. I got this on a sale during Black Friday for $35. Do not spend $90 on that. In my opinion, it's not really worth it. But the least expensive original that I can find that's not a sale right now, because it is the holiday season while I'm filming this, so a lot of stuff's on sale, is $72, and that's for the G10 version, like with the black and white scales. Other versions, like with the Rich Light, is $72 as well. Okay, so I guess that's about the same price. And then the aluminum versions are about $93. I thought there was a cheaper small size. I thought there was an original with micarta in the small size, but I can't find it right now. I can only find the XL. So anyways, my point still stands. I think this knife is a little bit overpriced for what you're getting. Yeah, 154 cm, cool. When you compare this to other knives, other button lock knives out there right now, I don't think this justifies being almost double to about triple the price of some of those in some cases. I will say some of the more expensive versions of the original are actually the more economical. Like they've got a couple in like Fat Carbon and L-Max. They're like, you know, $175, which is, you know, it's an expensive knife, but for L-Max and Fat Carbon, it's kind of, you know, kind of a good deal, I guess. But yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and get to some of the things that just bother me a little bit. Number one, I don't think this is not my favorite button lock action. And to illustrate that, we're going to compare it against what I think is this knife's biggest competitor, and that's the CGRB Pyrite. We were talking about the price. The Pyrites are going for like $50, $50 compared to $72. I can tell you which one I'm going with. But one thing to illustrate with the action is, watch what happens when I just kind of like push on this thumb stud. Okay. Not that much. Okay. So you see how it just kind of like swings out a little bit slowly and then, you know, kind of softly locks up. It's like a soft deployment, or I just fail it. With the Pyrite, I can't do that. Okay, there was a fail, but it's a little bit hard to show this under camera. But this thing just snaps a lot more. And again, of course, you know, if you give it some juice, it's going to be just fine. But if I give the Pyrite some juice, holy cow, that thing rockets out of there. I'm not sure if that was a really good illustration of what I can feel myself, but the action on this is good. I just don't think it's as good as things like the Pyrite, and especially it's not as good as things like compared to like the Sencut Serene. This is an excellent button lock action, and this is a $46 knife, and this is, you know, not better than that. So I want to point that out. Another thing is I don't like the ergonomics on this thing. Now, this is a smaller knife, and this knife is a little bit smaller than I prefer, so maybe if I had the bigger version, it would solve these issues, but if I'm back here in this grip, it's not bad. Like, this is a fine grip, but I do feel like I'm a little bit far from the edge. I can feel the clip, not like a hot spot, but I can kind of feel it. If I choke up into here, I get close to the edge, I feel like I have more control. But these little corners here are just a little bit hard in my fingers, so I'm not a big fan of that grip. And the ergonomics, again, they're fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with the ergonomics. They just don't work for me. They might work for someone else a little bit more, but for me, they just feel a little bit awkward. Again, not bad. They're not bad ergonomics. They're just a little bit awkward. So I want to point that out. Okay, so that's kind of it. Let's go ahead and go on to my final conclusions. And that's going to be a weird one, guys, because is this a good knife? Yes. Yes, this is absolutely a good knife. I'm never going to say that it's not. The Kizer Original is a great knife. And if someone comes up to me and they say, hey, I'm absolutely in love with the Kizer Original, I want to get one, I've got my heart set on it, is it a good knife? Will I regret buying it? In that case, I'll say no, you probably won't. If you already know you love it, yeah, you'll probably enjoy it. It's a well-made knife, and knock yourself out. But if someone comes up to me and they say, hey, I'm looking to get an EDC knife that's a button lock with thumb studs, there are so many places I'm going to be sending them first. I'm going to be sending them to the Pyrite. I'm going to be sending them to things like the Ramet. The Ramet's got a couple of button locks I can think of right now, actually. The Rhino, and also another one. They've also got a premium version of it, whatever. There are just so many other button locks I'd recommend to people. I recommend things like the Serene. And so this leaves me in a place where I don't think I would ever recommend the Kizer Original to someone. But again, if someone wants to get it, I'm going to say, yeah, that's a good knife. Go ahead. Get it. It comes in multiple sizes. So if, you want the small knife, you can get the small one. If you want the big one, you can get the big one. But for me, this knife just doesn't feel special. I don't think this knife really stands out. And honestly, at the price, heck, another knife I just thought of that's a competitor to this one is the Civivi Elementum 2. This knife is more expensive than the Pyrite. I recommend the Pyrite before the Elementum 2 anyways. But $62. This is still, you know, a $10 discount over this guy. And it's a much, much better knife, in my opinion. Way better ergonomics, a better blade. So, yeah, I really don't know why I would ever recommend the original. And I think Kizer's got to be trolling us with a name. By naming this the original, I think they gotta, you know, be having a little bit of a wink at us. It's a little bit ironic because very little about this knife is original, right? So yeah, that's kind of where I'm going to leave this review. I don't really like this knife at all. I don't know why, because it's objectively, it's a fine knife. Objectively, it's good. But for me personally, I don't really like it. And yeah, I guess that's where I have to separate the knife enthusiast in me from the reviewer in me. The reviewer side of me is saying, yeah, this knife is good. They didn't do anything objectively wrong. But I think there are better options out there. The enthusiast side of me is like, I don't really understand this knife. I don't really enjoy this knife that much. It's very plain. I don't think it's anything interesting. So there's my thoughts. I know this is a very popular knife, so my my opinion on it might be unpopular. But I'm giving this knife as a gift to someone. And honestly, I would not give someone a knife that I thought was subpar. I would not give a gift that I thought was poor quality. And so the fact that I'm giving this knife as a gift to someone should be a little bit of a recommendation from me, right? It means that I do trust that this is a well-built knife. Might not be for me, but I actually do think the person I'm going to give it to is really going to like it. Again, though, if you're going to be buying one, if you got some on sale like I did for 35 bucks, you probably going to love this knife. And honestly, if this knife was $50, I might be singing a different tune. The fact that it's like 72 and up, I don't know. It makes it. There's just so much competition out there. I don't really think it justifies its price. And the lack of lefty love is criminal. But there we go. That's all I'm going to say about that knife today, folks. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, comment below, and subscribe. I've been Gideon. I'll see you in the next one.